Hello, I'm KUN YIN and I'm going to talk about managing inclusion and diversity today. Diversity and inclusion are becoming increasingly important to the field of sports management. This is not only due to increased awareness about the unequal opportunity that many people, including the LGBTQ community, have faced within the sports industry over the years, but also an enhanced recognition of the benefits that diversity and inclusion can deliver to organizations. Well, for one group of people who have experienced particular inequality within sports is the LGBTQ community. Despite recent improvements, many lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and other employees continue to face discrimination and prejudice within sports organizations, which have been identified as overwhelming heter- heterosexist cultures as Melton and the County State. Research suggests sexual minorities are oftentimes harassed, negatively stereotyped, and socially excluded in team or work settings. Experience their heterosexual counterparts do not typically encounter. It is therefore vital that sports organizations strive to create an inclusive environment in which diversity is not only accepted but also celebrated. In this presentation, I will examine three key pieces of literature that relate to the management of LGBTQ employees within sports organizations and relate this to the specific example of men and women's football. The aim of this is to understand key theories and the concepts behind diversity and inclusion within sport. Finally, I will use this information to provide particularly recommendations to senior managers about how to ensure they are managed appropriately. The key piece of literature identified which relates to the topic of managing diversity and inclusion within sports organizations is Cunningham Diversity and Inclusion in Sports Organizations. A multi-level perspective, this book provides a detailed overview of the importance of diversity within sports organizations, including the value of having employees that differ by gender, identity, race, disability, religion, age, sexual orientation, and social and economic class. Cunningham's work is based on the idea that sports organizations not only have a moral imperative to develop and maintain inclusive environments, but also that the performance and the success of inclusive sports organizations is enhanced through diversity. Also discussing the factors that have increased the importance of diversity and inclusion, such as the growing value of teamwork, globaliza- globalization, and a keen focus on service provision. Cunningham also discussed the theories used to understand diversity, including intersectionally, which is the idea that the discrimination that people experience is different depending on the overlapping identities that they have, which can multiply inequalities or exclusion. Importantly, intersectionally must be acknowledged in order to equally recognize the difficulties faced not only by LGBTQ members, but by those who also face other forms of marginalization, such as racial, religious, or social class based. This literature is also especially relevant to the case of LGBTQ people working within sports environments because Cunningham discuss the sexual prejudice and the stigma faced by these individuals within the heteronormative context of sports organizations and the strategies that they can utilize to cope with this. Indeed, Chapter 9 is entirely dedicated to understanding and managing LGBTQ people within sports, to sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. Another key piece of literature which illuminates the topic of LGBTQ diversity and inclusion inclusion within sport is Katimi and Hansen. This article provides an overview of the challenges faced by this minority within sports context, including prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination, as well as the benefits to organizational performance of LGBTQ inclusion. Furthermore, this article highlights important theories pertaining to diversity and inclusion within sport, including creative capital theory. This theory posits that creativity is essential for economic growth and that creative people are attracted to inclusive and diverse environments, making inclusivity a determinant of economic performance. This article by Katmi and Hassan elevates the evidence for the application of creative capital theory to the inclusion of LGBT people within sports context, finding that there is plenty of evidence that a more inclusive approach drives this creativity and attracts talented inno- innovator who generally have higher levels of productivity and perform better. A further piece of work which is relevant to the topic is that of STORE. They use the theory of institutional diversity to explore the importance of inclusive management within sports organizations. Basing their work on the case study of Australian cricket, institutional diversity theories that diversity works in two distinct ways. First, as work undertaken when the people within organizations do not conform to the norms of the institution, such as LGBTQ people within heteronormative sports environments. And second, as a transformative device that can open up an organization to those people who are not traditionally included. Their study find that in structural institutional barriers to inclusion exist that must be removed in order to manage people who do not conform to the organizational norms of sports organizations, many of which are extremely heteronormative. They also highlight the need to support LGBTQ employees by creating welcoming, welcoming and affirming sports environments through specific diversity and inclusion policies, linking to creative capital theory. For this part, the application of intersectionality to inequality within sports has been found by many studies. For example, studies have found that people from more than one marginalized group suffer from greater inequality within physical activity and sports environments. For example, black or disabled members of the LGBTQ community experience greater exclusion than white LGBTQ individuals do. This is especially concerning bearing in mind 36% of LGBTQ people and 56% of transgender people are disabled, something that has led to the exclusion of these groups from sports clubs and organizations. This makes it's important to address the way that different categories of marginalizations interact within sports environments and ensure greater sport support for those affected. Applying creative capital theory to the Premier League, the UK's highest professional football league, demonstrate the merit of this theory. In 2023, Liverpool FC was given the Premier League Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Standard Advanced Level Award, commending it for its commitment to equality, diversity, and inclusion throughout the organizations. At the same time, Liverpool is the fourth most popular football club in the Premier League, according to fans statistics, and is currently ranked second in the league, making it extremely successful. Liverpool consistent high performance and popularity demonstrates the value of its inclusive approach. An example of the value of institutional diversity is women's football, which has been identified as more accepting, welcoming, and affirming to LGBTQ individuals than men's football. In contrast to the men's game, women's football has an extremely high representation of openly lesbian and bisexual players, with over 88 individuals taking part in the Women's World Cup in 2023. At the same time, LGBTQ individuals working within women's football have highlighted the high degree of acceptance and support that they receive from football clubs and the larger bodies such as the England Football Association, providing evidence that women's football has greater institutional diversity, opening it up to those who have been traditionally included. Based on the literature and examples, it is first recommended that senior managers make the effort to recognize that way the way that different factors may intersect to marginalize or include certain groups, such as disabled LGBTQ people, and actively seek to include them. This could be done through community outreach or by recruiting the external support of organizations such as Stonewall UK, which specialize in upholding the rights of the LGBTQ community. As the value of creating an inclusive environment to attract creative, high-performing individuals has also been highlighted. It is recommended that managers integrate inclusion and diversity aims and objectives within their strategic goals, ensuring positive, equitable environments at each level of an organization, ensuring that minority groups are represented at senior levels such as at Liverpool FC could contribute towards this. Finally, it is recommended that managers actively challenge the heteronormativity of sports environments in order to create genuine institutional diversity, including removing barriers to the inclusion of LGBTQ people. This could be done by setting up internal support groups for LGBTQ employees, or by providing visible mentors and champions of LGBTQ people within sports such as in women's football. And here are my references, and thank you for listening.